Welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on to speak with me.
Greg, thanks for having me. Appreciate the time. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, listen, in the back, I first want to thank you for sending me the seed, the rugby ball. That was a great gift, a welcome little present to find in the mail. I was out in the backyard with my daughters, throwing it around, and there's something so satisfying about the way that thing flies.
It's fun here in the U.S. when someone touches that rugby ball for the first time. I don't care if you're a rugger and you've touched a million rugby balls, or it's the first time touching. With most Americans, it's the first time touching the ball. It brings a smile to your face. So it is it's an exciting sport, and again, American football wouldn't be here if it weren't for that little ball behind you.
Yeah, I think you guys have. First of all, I mean, there's just so much to talk about. I'm really interested in hearing the journey of starting a new professional sports league and all that's involved there. I played college football like 10,000 years ago, but when I got done, I was still a pretty good sized guy, 6'4", and kind of probably had some of that football weight on me. And I would go to this bar all the time in San Diego, and the Ombak rugby team was just kind of like their local bar there, and it was a pretty competitive rugby team. I think they had a couple guys who were like national players at some point, and they would recruit me all the time. Like, hey man, you're a big dude. You should come out, man. You should play rugby. And I looked at those guys and I saw the size, and I was like, the thought of running into you without pads on is not something that's an interest to me. But man, I have the absolute utmost respect for rugby players. I mean, that is a tough group of guys right there.
I'm like you, Greg. I'm going to raise my hand. I'm a stupid American too. I played baseball and football collegiately. I didn't know anything about the sport. To
Hmm.
me, those guys who couldn't make the football team that liked drinking keg beer.
Yeah,
And the little school I went to was probably pretty accurate, but you're kind of, it's the one sport. Right? We all played, most of us played American football growing up as a kid, and as I grew up, you could become a lightweight or a heavyweight, or if you're too big, especially in the youth level, we call it a red stripe. You get a red stripe on the helmet. That means you're too big, you can't carry the ball. You got to go be an
yeah,
and you're usually stuck there the whole life, or puberty happens. The fun thing about the game of rugby is everyone gets to carry the ball.
yeah,
Everyone has a chance to score. Everyone's got to play defense. Everyone's got to tackle. So it's a very unifying game, if you will. But it is also a safer game, to American football if played properly. A lot of the NFL guys, a lot of the NFL coaches, Carroll out of Seattle has been on record saying they promoting rugby style tackling, right? It's a wrap tackling. It's more of a contact sport than it really is a collision sport. But you have to have that certain attitude to run into another human being, whether it's a male or even female, which is that you're a girl dad, I'm a girl dad, I got two of them.
yeah.
It's a popular sport female wise, but you do have to have that attitude. I am going to go tackle someone with no equipment on.
Yeah, I am. I have two daughters too. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I noticed that it's we're starting to see it more and more here, where rugby is now a high school sport, and more and more kids are playing it at the junior level and moving up. I was reading some of the statistics. What 3 in 10 rugby fans are women at this point. What is the future for rugby as far as like the collegiate ranks? Are we seeing more and more opportunities for kids in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
to play rugby in college?
Yeah, it's the largest club sport for men and women. So I
Hmm.
think it's approaching about 900 clubs across the U.S. It's not necessarily NCAA yet, right?
Hmm.
Clubs comes first, and then NCAA comes on. So our approach is really from that top-down model, where now we can be a home from a professional perspective that these kids can aspire to go. Right? We're all, most of us that are former athletes, grow up, hey, you wanted to be the next Bo Jackson or the Michael Jordan. You could see those players on TV. There's really not that in the sport of rugby, but it is creating that groundswell within the U.S. from a man perspective, from a women perspective. And then you can see collegiate rugby on NBC, right? And then from a youth perspective, the youth is starting to percolate and pop up in a lot of the countries. We're based here in Minneapolis in the Midwest, and there's high schools that have it. There's flag rugby, similar to, if you will, football, flag football. So there's a way to kind of introduce these kids now there's a future post-college, right? There's a future from a rugby player playing collegiately, maybe at the university, to now truly be a professional athlete full-time. In addition to these athletes that try to make, say, a football team, there's truly a future, and we're seeing a lot of that from a crossover perspective, where I may play football in the fall and rugby in the spring, because we say if you want to be a better football player, play rugby.
Right. Well, you guys have a really interesting approach to this, and similar to yourself as an athlete that came out of college and was trying to figure out what to do with the rest of my life. It's hard to walk away from the game. You think about like soccer, right? We're not U.S. men's, especially women, has been extremely dominant, but men are not considered a world dominant soccer team. I would assume that if you looked at the global rankings in rugby, the U.S. is probably not up there with the New Zealands and maybe the English teams of the world. An argument I've heard in the past is that, well, our best athletes don't play soccer or rugby, right? Our best athletes play football and probably basketball, right? So what I love about this is you're literally recruiting, or you're bringing in our best athletes. I mean, these are people who have played college football, some of them played in the NFL, and now it's like, hey, bring it to rugby. So are you expecting the caliber of the game to even jump over maybe what's our current national team? And I know you got to be touchy about that subject here because there is a national team to talk about, but
no, I mean that's a good point. So the Rugby World Cup, right now, the women's the Rugby World Cup is the third largest sporting event in the world, behind the Soccer World Cup and the Summer Olympics. Most Americans don't know that. It's a massive popular event that happens every 4 years. This is the Rugby World Cup year for rugby. It's in France, September through the November time period. The USA won't be there. They
yeah.
qualify, right? So you look at the caliber of the sport and where it needs to go. Our thing from day one is to please take this sport and introduce it to a whole new fan base in America that doesn't know much about the sport. That's truly a holy grail. We love our rugby fans. That's great. It's a passionate group. It's growing here in the U.S. There's no question about it. How do you truly take this property and bring it to a fan base that doesn't know much? And one notion, right, if Messi's a great example, right? If you're an American sports fan, I don't care what your sport is, if it's baseball, if it's soccer, if it's lacrosse, we want to watch the best in the world. That's why when the Man U, Chelsea, Real Premier League team comes to America, they'll sell out an NFL stadium like that. In the sport of rugby, the best players in the world, they're not in one league. Some are in England, some are in France, some are in South Africa. They're scattered across various leagues, if you will, various nations. This presents a great opportunity for us to go capture some of the best skill positions. Right? These are the quarterbacks that take longer to master because these athletes are very underpaid. The professional side of rugby, although it's a 200-year-old sport, it's only been professional since 1995, so it's still a relatively new sport. So they're very underpaid athletes. We can go and afford to get some of these best skill positions. But to your point, now marry them with the homegrown boys. Right? And these are guys that a lot come from the NFL, NCAA football, that don't try to make an NFL team. It's pretty hard to have a career, a 4+ career in the NFL. It's just a fact. But yet, from when they were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old playing football, their dream was to make the NFL. Then they got a scholarship to Alabama, the Stars at Alabama. Then they got 1 or 2 years in the NFL. Maybe they got dinged, or they just weren't good enough to make it 53-man rosters. These guys are still 23 years old, 6'5", 250, can lift a house and are as fast as wind. They just haven't been aware of the sport of rugby. So it's been gratifying for us and our team as we held combines and really wanted to prove that thesis out. There's no question these guys can become some of the best rugby talent internationally. Not all of them. Some will take longer. Some may fizzle out. But the attributes within certain positions within the sport of rugby really tie it nicely over to the sport of football and rugby. And why that's important, Greg, is going back to the notion we want to watch the best in the world.
Yeah.
So combine the internationals with some of the homegrown boys that the American fan base wants to follow, we can put on one of the most exciting products on the pitch in no time.
Yeah. And one of the things you guys are doing that I think is really smart is the kind of the docuseries concept, right? Like you think about what Formula One and Netflix. I mean, I'm a football fan. Hard Knocks, even on HBO. Like, there's something about becoming emotionally invested in learning the stories behind the players that really helps draw you in. Talk to me a little bit about what you guys are working on there.
It's storytelling, right? So my background, worked for an agency, helped build that up, a lot of that, about a decade and a half, right?
Mm-hmm.
America's motorsport. It has been, probably always will be. Formula One, the rest of the world. Formula One has tried for decades to get into America really unsuccessfully. COVID hit, grabbed it through on Netflix, and now we know the net result. 400,000 people go to Austin, Texas for a Formula One race. Miami had a race. Vegas has a race coming up. And what that did, Greg, it just didn't bring over the motorsports people. It brought a fan base that didn't know anything about Formula One
Mm-hmm.
into the sports, right? Ferrari versus Mercedes, this driver versus that driver, the soap opera, what Formula One is, storytelling. And then when they go to Austin, when they go to Vegas, that's where they truly become fans after they watch the sport. So what's exciting with us, and going back to the notion of how do we bring this 120-year-old sport to a new fan base in America that really doesn't know much about the sport of rugby, comes down to storytelling, content, bringing people truly behind the scenes of building the next major league sport, right? Following that Alabama guy, his journey into the league, following that owner who's maybe not a billionaire and can't afford the NFL, his or her journey in actually owning a professional league. So there's a ton of stories that we can tell, and that's how you create that, and that's how you foster that fan base that start to follow these athletes, these stories. And then when they experience rugby for that first time, when they watch a game, we think rugby will sell itself here in the U.S. Nothing against soccer, but there's no question here in the U.S. we are a gladiator society. We still love our crash, boom, banging. That's why American football is the leader by far. And we feel we can position that in the offseason of the NFL.
Yeah, I read the quote. It's a hooligans game played by gentlemen, and my experience, as I said, hanging out with all these rugby guys, it was really interesting because they would have these matches, and then at the end they would all go to the same bar together and just drink beer together. Which was very unique. You would never see that in like football, right? You're never going to see Alabama go to the same bar as a bunch of Tennessee guys and drink beers after their game.
Yeah, no, some call it a drink up, right? As it became more professional, I think they're drinking NA beer now than truly getting after it. But even going back to the Rugby World Cup, where two nations are going head to head on the biggest stage, they will still go in each other's locker room and cheers up, after the game. So it is a very unique sport, which we think here in the U.S. people will want to see that camaraderie, that sportsmanship within the game. And you can YouTube, you can Google, a lot of the soccer clips on how soccer players maybe treat the referees, and now compare that to rugby. It's yes sir, yes ma'am.
Right.
They only talk to one captain. They'll throw out, yellow cards with red cards for inappropriate behavior on the pitch. So it truly is the unwritten rules within the sport of rugby that, we think people here in the U.S. will like, and that's why, Bo Jackson, for instance, has joined our board and is part of the organization because he feels what an exciting time to start a new professional sports league rooted in the right values, rooted in diversity, rooted in inclusion. So he's taken this on kind of with that notion to be part of that and really set the North Star of how a league should truly act.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm always fascinated by the connection between sports and the lessons learned in athletics and teamwork and culture and how it applies to other parts of life. So one of the books I've, picked up and read is Legacy by James Kerr, which is all about the New Zealand All Blacks. And I think the US audience is going to be really attracted to the culture that I think exists within rugby, because as you said, it really is about, somewhat of a humbleness and a team first approach. And, they just talk about a lot of the way this organization goes about it. It's like clean up the locker room on the way out, right? Essentially, it's like, yeah, you're all stars. You're the greatest rugby players in the world. You're this huge legacy team that everybody knows about, but you still are, the captain of the team is still going to sweep up the floor in the locker room on the way out the door, right? It's something you'd never, ever see in the NFL or a sport like that. I'm assuming that's some of what you would be capturing in the content storytelling piece of this.
Absolutely. One, you got to create the superstar, right? What a beautiful platform. You can create superstars, athletes that we know today to get with the right ethos culture that is rooted amongst the whole league. Yeah, there's no question that's the exciting journey we're on as we go to really uncover some of the next Michael Jordans. Not only we think they can be the next best rugby player in the world, but yet they come from all different backgrounds, right? And it's like any business that you start. You've started many businesses. You're an entrepreneur. It is creating that foundational culture across the league, right? Your employees, our employees being athletes who are really partners in what we're doing, you need to abide by those. You need to kind of buy into those cultures from a business, from a league perspective.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about you. I read somewhere, I think it's on your LinkedIn profile. You are in the Hall of Fame at your college for both baseball and football.
Yeah, again, hey, a little Division III school here in Minnesota, but maybe that's why I chose the path that I did from a business perspective. You get recruited, and eventually you figure, okay, I'm not going to be the next majority. What's my plan here? Knowing I want to make an impact. Right? Like some athletes, and you could go on and maybe get a Division I scholarship, sit the bench, grind it out, and maybe play your junior, senior year, which is great. Mine was I want to go on and make an impact. So that's why you go to a smaller school. You can play 2 sports. You can play all 4 years in both. And then as I kind of sit back and become a dad with 2 girls, and you kind of assess, why the heck did I go into and become an entrepreneur? Why did I start to go to an agency that had a few employees? Why did I join my partner in building this? Making an impact. Anything you do has an impact on the culture of a company and organization. So, and then you look back, and some of the best friends that you go come through athletics, right? I met my wife at a little Division III school. So there's a lot of good things that come out of it.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that entrepreneur piece. I would always interview people for, startups. And, that was one of the things I'd say is, you can go to a big company like whatever, Google and Facebook, and you're gonna get paid well and it's gonna be great. And, but you're going to be a cog in a giant wheel. And, this is for people who want to build the wheel. And, there's certain people out there that just have the passion to build the wheel.
I think we're set. A lot of people, with our partners, they're like, it's just daunting. We hear that word daunting from so many people. And then when you really sit back and listen to the words that I'm saying, like, yeah, it's daunting, but it's calculated. And I just love being in the middle of the ocean, no land in sight, treading water. Right? That's the fun journey of really building something. And I go back, if why not? Why not us? It needs to be done. Right, someone's got to go clean out the barn. Let's go clean out the barn and do it right. And timing's right with what we're doing with when COVID hit. And we've been on this for some time, but things happen for a reason. And you keep plugging forward, and you start bringing people together that have been there, done that. We're foolish enough to do this, like most entrepreneurs, but we're smart enough to know we can't do this alone. Right, you got to bring in people that have been there, done that, and that's the fun part, to work with great people.
So early in your career, you've really spent the majority of your career in storytelling. And Morgan, you kind of mentioned that. I know you had your own agency or part of growing an agency. Talk to me a little bit about how this opportunity came about.
Yeah, so I was at an agency. We grew that and did some exciting things and built the company up. And as I said, did a lot within the NASCAR space and built some sportsman technology. And, like anything in this world, I think things happen for a reason. Founder, Michael Clemens, we came across in similar circles and had a conversation. I said, okay, I see where you want to take this. As he said, we want to go to the moon with rugby. And I said, all right, I'm ready to jump in this ocean again. Right, I want to smell those sawdust and start building boards. And that's where you're thankful for what you built. and you're ready, you have a conversation with your family and say, this is the path that we're going to go on. I believe in this, and you make adjustments and you jump 2 feet in. I don't know anything different than
That's
putting a
right.
toe in the water. We're doing a cannonball, and with him, Michael as the founder, myself, and bringing a lot of other great people along the path. We're building something pretty special.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned Bo Jackson, who's like my all-time favorite athlete of all times, Lee Steinberg, Meta World Peace. What has been the process to bring these people on board?
Similar to you, Greg, where you have a seed in the background. You don't know. These balls have been scattered across the world. And
Yeah,
what do you do with the seed? You plant it.
that's right.
You can't bury it. You plant it, and eventually it grows at different times. So we have a pretty exciting story to tell. And it's a matter of picking the phone and connecting with people, and sometimes it resonates. Where I remember a conversation with Bo. That, again, one of my daughter's soccer game, the pole is a fall soccer game. It's an 8-year-old soccer. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but in there supporting them, they got the umbrella watching her run around. I get a phone call, it's private. Or something else. Goes to voicemail. I answer it, and it's Bo. Like, see, next time you see a private call, make sure you pick it up. It's either me or the president. So we eventually connect, and then he goes on, how exciting it would be to be part of that from the beginning, from a culture perspective. And then you look at other people like Meta World Peace. A lot of us know him from his NBA career and NBA champion, but he's an unbelievable, successful entrepreneur, businessman within sports media and entertainment. And then also like the Jerry Maguire within sports agency. So it's getting all these people together. It's been fun. And as I said, you got to reach out to people, and timing's everything in this world. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but it's a collection of people. You look at any good businesses, that could be Google. It could be there's more people at Apple that truly build Apple. It's just bringing this nucleus together to build something.
Yeah. So where are you guys? What's your time horizon? I know you guys have been working on this for a while. When can we expect to see this rolling out? When we'll be able to see the docuseries, all those types of things?
Yeah, so we're in a funding mode. No question about it. You can look at the AAF, Alliance of American Football. We didn't make it a full season. You can look at some of the XFL 1.0, 2.0. We're on 3.0 now.
Mm-hmm.
Other spring football leagues, other rugby leagues, other startup leagues that have come and gone. Really two factors we feel why they falter is one, rushing to market. As I said, it's not about just throwing 30 guys on a rugby pitch and playing rugby. And then two, is being undercapitalized and picking the wrong investors, right? You got to pick the right initial investors, strategic partners to do what we're doing. But what's exciting about this, knowing it's not about, again, just playing rugby and giving guys a couple bucks, going back to that notion, how do we bring this sport, introduce this sport to a new American fan base? We're in process of our docuseries now. In addition, on our NRFL studios, we're greenlighting a Hollywood film, right? So if you've seen the movie Miracle, if you're American, I sure hope everyone has seen that movie.
Yeah.
So we have a script in hand based on true rugby events. Similar notion. Again, the whole reason of this, one way to bring anything to mainstream culture is through Hollywood, right? Through the big screen, through film. So greenlighting this film later part of the year, and then out and release about a year, 18 months from now, which will actually be a 100-year anniversary of when these events took place. And then that transitions into next year where we take a number of teams on tour. Right? We'll go to Austin for a full weekend in a festival-like environment, bring in music, entertainment, friendly, putting some substantial capital around these events so people around the Boston area will want to come to this must-attend event for whatever reason. And then when they watch rugby for the first time, we think we can, again, rugby will sell itself. That's how you start building the fan base. You start going on tour amongst these cities. Then eventually that then transitions to, regular season, 8 teams, win-loss, plus championship.
Right. So what are you guys shooting for from a timing perspective? We thinking we're 2025-ish?
Yeah, so 24 we'll go on tour. So we'll start driving revenue. From a commercial perspective, 2025 is the 8 teams still going on tour. All is very similar to the Premier Lacrosse League, which is a newer lacrosse league that kicked off right before COVID. So we'll take all our teams on tour in 2025. Still will be a win-loss scenario. And then you do that for a number of years, because what we want to do from a business perspective, you want to create so much value within those initial 8 teams that when you expand, people in Las Vegas are going to raise their hand and say, I want one of these teams in my backyard. So you drive up the valuations. You see many leagues, and MLS, I would say, got in trouble. They're in a great spot now. You look at some other startup leagues, they get in trouble because they just they need to expand to have that infusion of cash.
Yeah.
So based on our structure and our single entity model, you can start driving revenue, not just on gate, because again, you got to diversify. So if a pandemic hits again, you're not so reliant on selling beer and putting butts in seats. And that's that's the exciting part with the sport of rugby, being it is one of the last most under-commercialized sports, under-monetized, undervalued sports from a global perspective. You can start driving those revenue streams from day one while you build up to actually throwing the ball around on the pitch.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that strategy makes a ton of sense. And I think the content-led kind of storytelling aspect of it, this is kind of a silly example, but I read this on like Reddit like 2 days ago, talking about the Love Boat. For anybody who doesn't know, the Love Boat was like a show from like the 80s that, it was just this like broadcast, network TV show, like 9 o'clock on like Wednesdays or something. But before that show aired, I guess the cruise industry was like this fledgling industry. Nobody went on cruises. Nobody cared about cruises. And then that show aired. And then I guess, that's really the cruise industry that we know today, really came from that. But it is a little bit like just getting into the social zeitgeist and getting people excited about something, and things can just blow up.
100%. Another great example along the cruise industry is UFC. A lot of us know that story, but maybe it's 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
When the Fertitta brothers bought UFC or MMA, the sport, it was an illegal sport.
Right.
It was illegal in 37, 38 states. They bought an illegal sport for a couple $1 million, losing year over year. Then a few years into it, they launched Ultimate Fighter, I think, back on Fight Channel. And again, what that did, it brought mainstream eyeballs to whatever the sport is. What is this MMA? Is this the new boxing thing? This athlete versus that athlete. And now we know the net result with their $4 billion exit and reportedly close to probably a $10 billion valuation. So it comes down to storytelling. Even way back then when UFC started, even way back then when the Love Boat kicked on. The most exciting thing that we have, it's a different era. You don't have to be so reliant on, I need to be on Spike Channel.
Right.
If I'm Love Boat, I need to be on NBC at 7 o'clock Central Time, right? Through Netflix, through direct-to-consumer, through mobile, we can get to consumers a lot easier. So it comes down to great storytelling and great entertainment.
Yeah. How's that process been for you? I mean, you don't, I know you have a background in digital and marketing and all those types of things, but now you're talking about building a studio and probably sitting in there with Hollywood executives. And has it been a learning curve, or,
Yeah, with anything you learn, you're constantly learning. If you're not learning, right, it's not exciting. So you're constantly learning new things. That's why you bring in good people and have great conversations with people that have been there, done that have been in the studio ranks in LA for decades. But at the end of the day, we all put on our pants the same way, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all learning, right? I may know something that you don't know, and vice versa. So we know we have what we are building. We have everything built. Now it's a matter of executing on the right partners to execute on it.
Okay. So you're in fundraising mode. Who are you looking to raise capital from? Are you, I mean, is it like a typical VC fundraise where you have something opened up, some kind of instrument raising X amount of money, kind of anybody that's an accredited investor can play, or is this more institutional sized money?
Yeah, if you look at you can line up the people that own professional sports today.
Mm-hmm.
54 people in the U.S. majority owners. Line them up, they all relatively look the same. One, they're all probably billionaires. And they're all older white gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
We have a massive opportunity to really change that conversation, what professional sports ownership looks like and how it operates. We have an opportunity. The big reason why one, there's a lot of assets that go for sale. Commanders just finished
Yeah.
NFL team. Not a lot of inventory cycles between the big four, the big five. So that's an issue. But we made professional sports ownership accessible. You don't need to be a billionaire to come into us. You need a couple bucks. You need to be accredited, yes. We look at the institutional investors. They're later stage type investment that's pretty typical of institutional. So it's high net worth individuals that have been locked out of buying sports. Maybe people that own minority ownership within sports or minor league professional sports that understand the sports and the value within professional sports. Family offices, athletes is a great example. Knowing not everyone is LeBron James or Tom Brady or Michael Jordan that can afford to come in and buy a minority stake. These athletes have made money, whatever their sport is. Now it's time for them to actually get a they, back in the day, a lot of athletes wanted to be rappers. Rappers wanted to be athletes. The time has changed where entrepreneurship, equity ownership, our athletes are getting a lot smarter. You know what? Instead of taking a sponsorship deal for a couple $100,000 doing this, maybe I have to get equity into what I'm doing. So it's an exciting part to have really an eclectic group of people to come into this, knowing we've made it accessible, knowing they can come in and not only own one team, you can come in and own all the 5 teams. Right? The diversity amongst ownership. I think if we could all go back in the day and actually own the Cowboys, the Patriots, the Vikings, the 49ers, I think we would all do that. That's really the opportunity that we have. And knowing it's not going to happen overnight. It's a longer-term asset, a longer-term hold. But yet in 2031, the Rugby World Cup, which is the third largest event in the world, is going to be hosted in America.
Yeah.
Proper ramp up time for us to do what we need to do. Knowing when we hit 2031, if you will, it's just the cherry on top.
Yeah. In typical, startup world, there's money and then there's strategic money, right? And, strategic money is going to have relationships and they're going to make introductions and they're going to open up doors for you. And I think what's really cool about the athlete approach, or, and it doesn't have to be an athlete, the celebrity approach is they really have an opportunity to help their own investment. It isn't necessarily a passive investment, right? If Bo Jackson gets involved with this, yes, he's putting some money in. Yes, he's taking an equity stake, but just by Bo Jackson being Bo Jackson, he can make a real impact on the trajectory of his investment in the company. And there's just so many athletes that have that potential. It's really a competitive advantage if they make the right investments by what they're able to bring to it with celebrity and influence and followers and so on and so forth.
I'm glad you brought that up, Greg. A great example is Ryan Reynolds and Ryan. I'm not a soccer. My kids play soccer. I'm still not a huge fan of soccer. I watch it and I can appreciate it. But they went and bought, I think, a 6-tier soccer team.
Wrexham, yeah.
Right? I don't know where Wrexham was. I think Rob McElhenney was a soccer fan and convinced Ryan who didn't know much about the sport, and he went in on it. But again, you can go back to why did he go in on it? He's got production. He knows how to sell. But he knows how to storytell. He's one of the best storytellers out there. So you can hedge your bet. And I don't know much about soccer, but I can go in and tell the stories of these fans, tell these stories of the athletes, my investment, right? I can hedge that and break even, and now you can see how they're growing and they got promoted. So you can look whether it be an athlete, whether it be someone in the celebrity space that has some following. You put some effort into what we are doing by becoming a face, by becoming a partner. To your point, they can help themselves. They can help their investments. That's how you create the eyeballs with what we're doing. And now, since I watched Welcome to Wrexham, which is their docu-series, I want to buy a Wrexham jersey. I don't know why. I'm a fan of their team. I know the players. I know the pub that they go to. I know their fans that they follow. And that's the power that storytelling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think a good example of storytelling for the average person out there is the Olympics. And, you watch the Olympics, whether it's the winter or the summer, and they do these sort of these story profiles on this particular athlete. This is what they had to overcome. This is where they came from. This is what happened last year. They injured themselves in the, qualifying. They didn't make it, and they came back and they had to deal with this adversity. And then all of a sudden, it's like, whatever it is, figure skating or something like that, where I don't really have any interest in figure skating. I watch it, once every 4 years, but you become so emotionally invested in the person and the story, and that all of a sudden you're like at the edge of your seat and like burst into tears if they do something great. And it's not even about the sport anymore, right? It's about the context behind the sport, the person.
Well, and that's every 4 years. You can look at probably participation in figure skating. We'll stick with that. It probably rises every 4 years because you come invested in the athletes like, I kind of want to in my youth. I want to try figure skating. And that's these people probably die off. And that's, again, exciting with what we're doing. It's not every 4 years is the National Rugby Football League. It's every year.
Yeah.
Whether it's a young athlete wanting to try rugby for the first time, or whether it's a fan showing interest from a sporting perspective, but it's every year having people follow the journey of the athletes into the league, and that's what creates that fandom. That's why the Olympics are the top 2 sporting event in the world. We all fall in love with the track and field star because you fall in love with their background and where they're at, and you root for them. Even if they fail, you still, the win, loss, gold, silver, bronze, you're still rooting for them.
That's right. And, to your point about rugby just growing as far as a participant sport and more kids playing it, and the number one clubs team, I think that also has a big impact in the future of this because, I'm not a soccer fan either, but I didn't grow up playing soccer. I grew up playing baseball, basketball, football. Those are games I know and I know intimately. As more and more kids grow up and understand the sport, I mean, it's a dynamic game. I mean, these are big, strong, athletic men and women that are moving at fast paced and doing some really exciting, interesting things. I just think there's a context of we as Americans learn the game more and actually understand what's happening. We'll become more and more invested in.
Yeah, and from a player perspective, rugby really lends itself to a lot of different body types, right? So it is exciting where you can see, say, a tight end would convert over to rugby. So you get the big guys and gals that can move fast. 250 can still run. You still have to be in shape. But yet you can get a guy, a good example, South Africa won the last rugby. The heartbeat, they call him the heartbeat of the club. He was maybe 5'10", maybe.
Yeah.
8, just a little guy, a long way there, but he was the heartbeat. He was, if you will, the quarterback of the club. Fast and could get the ball out, knew the positions, knew the movements of various people. So you get people that are the fast. I would hang out in the way. I'm more fast and I don't want to get hit. I'll just try to run past people. And then you get people on the inside. So it's funny, you do get all body types. And when you break down any sport, whether you're playing a board game with your family, whether it's a new sport, it's what's the object of the rule? What's the object of the game?
Yeah.
To go to one end of the pitch, you got 15 guys in this case, or gals, you got 15 on the other side, so you're not going to go to the other side. You can't throw the ball forward. You can always dive deeper, like in any game that you're playing, of the nuances. But it is a relatively simple game. Once Americans start to understand the 1, 2, 3 kind of rules, and then you start diving deeper as you become more fandom, as we start introducing, fantasy as betting takes place, all these other verticals that sports fan will just find interesting because then they'll want to educate themselves more on the game because I have $1 on this match or on this player.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about betting. I think the media storytelling piece is almost as important as the gambling piece. That ability for people to put something on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, fantasy football back in the day, before we could use mobile. I remember this back in college and pre-college. It was all Excel spreadsheets and writing out by paper. But again, that accelerated the females into football, right? Their interest into football. So then you start introducing betting, which America's just behind some of the rest of the world. You can see the explosion of it. And even the popularity within football and the demographic has gotten greater. So you look at a newer sport, a growing sport like rugby, it's a massive pillar with what we're doing and how we're approaching, because it's one, again, avenue that sports fans will be introduced to it. Once you put $1 on it, you're going to get a little more educated.
Yeah. So for anybody out there listening, what what course of action? I mean, if you got athletes or people who are interested in investing, they can kind of find more information online, or
Yeah, even you can go to our website, reach out to me directly. And
yeah,
again, I'll talk to anyone.
I love it.
Conversations are free. You never know where they're going to lead. And one, appreciate being on your platform and what you have great. So thank you.
Of course.
Reach out to me directly, or you can again go straight to our website and reach out that way.
All right, man. Anything we didn't cover that, any questions I should have asked you?
I could talk on for hours about what we're doing and what you're doing and everything going on. But no, appreciate again the time. Like I tell people is whether you're in business, whether you're a college student, is I always ask the question is why not you? Why not me? Right? There's things out there that will come across your plate and people are in rush. I see that from my friend group that are work for big corporations that come Sunday absolutely hate their job.
Yeah.
Do they have good benefits for making money? 1,000% they are. And again, that's nothing wrong with that. You continue that path, but to always have that self check-in to say, why not me? Why not start something? You don't need to jump 2 feet in like you did or I did. You can always put a toe in the water, but to always have that open-minded, whether it's in a career path or any endeavor that you're doing for that matter.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. And I think you said this at the very beginning. It's not like entrepreneurship is like completely jumping off of building without a parachute. I mean, it feels like that sometimes, but you do have backup plans. Like there are fallbacks. And I think any venture that I've gone into, and I'm sure the same as with you weigh the risk versus the reward. And it's a comfortable enough risk in regards for the rewards. And the rewards are in a lot of cases financially, and they can be financially, but there's a lot more to it than just the finance side. I think there's that internal piece of just fulfillment and doing something that you really enjoy and love.
1,000%. I was there 8 days out of the week and 36 out of the 24 to do this. So it's fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. Doesn't mean that some days, like anything, it's stressful as heck and you're not sure where you're going, but I love Sunday night. So.
Yeah, man. All right, Steve. Well, I appreciate it, brother, and thanks again for the seed. I love it. I'll keep that sitting there for a while. So.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate